Karlie.
Hey, it's Shamina.
And we're
Emotionful. I had to mute myself because my dog started barking just right when we hopped on. So lovely.
welcome everyone. As usual, we want to say thank you to our patrons, Therese Gallagher, Joanne Stewart, and Kevin Gallagher. Thank you for your support, and thank you everyone else who follows us on social media, comments, likes, DMs, subscribes, shares, all that stuff.
All the things. This episode is a little different, going to be a little bit different than our usual episodes. This one's going to be a lot shorter. We have some special announcements that we want to make. So this is technically our season finale episode, but it won't be a traditional episode. So let's jump in and get started. Are you ready to be emotionally full?
Are you?
Are you?
Are you?
Okay. So, where do we want to start?
You start. Give me you start.
Okay, so since this is our season finale, we will be taking 2 weeks off, which means that we will be back on Tuesday, June 28th with our last season. You heard that correctly. June 28th is the beginning of our final season of Emotionful.
Sorry, I had to do that.
You're fine. So things are going to be a little bit different for this last season. It's probably going to be shorter than our usual seasons, and we're going to be releasing episodes every other week. So instead of our weekly streaming releases, then they will be every other week, and this season will be a little bit shorter as it is our finale season, as we wrap things up.
Yeah. So as Shamina said, I think me and Shamina, we really talked about this and thought about it, and we decided that we feel like right now for both of us at the point that we're at in our lives, we're not ready, but we need to make some changes. And so we're not saying this is like a definite end. Like, we may occasionally throw out some like group chats, or, maybe there's a topic we want to discuss, but it's not going to be as consistent as we have been. As she said, our last season, we're going to do bi-weekly releases instead of weekly as usual. But yeah, we just kind of came to the conclusion we love doing it and making episodes, but for me, I personally feel like right now, not that I want to start a new chapter, but this still holds on to a piece of my past. So I kind of want to move forward with that, from that.
Yeah. And Karlie and I had talked when we had originally discussed this about how we feel that this podcast has served its purpose, which for Karlie was primarily like talking about her breakup and just having this open space, and we've what's the word that I'm looking for? Like, opened up the platform to discuss other important topics and not just like breakup related. But I think we're just kind of at the point where it's time.
Mm-hmm. And I think, for me, I'm going to talk about what I've learned, or like what I've taken from the podcast. I'm a talker. I love talking, but I think the one season that we had a lot of guests, it's really interesting, like the way people navigate their own lives and how you know, we can be in the same age groups or whatever, or not even in the same age groups, but going through something entirely different, or, you know, we grew up in the same area, but our lives are just completely different that you would never know. And I like learning new things. So every time we had a guest on, and even not with a guest, but just with you, Shameen, I feel like depending on the topic we spoke about, I was like, oh wow, like I had no idea. And so I think for me, it got to a point to where I was really I stopped talking as much, and I would just like be like, wow, like, you know, I was just like blown by the things that people were saying.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And I think it's been humbling to like have our guests on and providing a type of platform that we can talk about some of these topics, or just kind of educating people on some of these things, but also hearing their stories. You know, obviously being a therapist, I hear lots of stories all the time. But it's different just being able to connect to people in that way, and not having to like play that role as like a therapist, if that makes sense. And I was thinking about that actually um, recently, because I was recently on a trip and I came home. I haven't even told you this yet, but I was on a plane. I flew. I'm not doing a very good job at communicating today, but I was coming home from my trip, and we were delayed because of some weather. And the person who was sitting next to me was watching the latest episode of Stranger Things, and I had already seen the episode that he was on. So as we were about to land, I was like, "Oh, like how do you like this episode? What have you?" And then, you know, we ended up getting delayed and had to go to another airport. It was a whole thing. But him and I were talking to each other and just kind of like connecting, and I, you know, getting to know this complete stranger. And it was such a different experience being like a lay person and doing that, instead of like a therapist and like, oh, you're my client and I'm helping you achieve these goals, and, you know, I need to know your history. But this was just like this genuine connection with some new type of person. And I really loved that feeling of just like getting to know somebody else's story in a different way. And I feel like I've been able to do that through the podcast, and learning more about, you know, people in our lives that I don't think that I knew this much about them until now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think like there's a part of you that's always a therapist. Like,
Oh
I
yeah.
think it's a natural, like, not in like a, you know, I just think like you were made to be a therapist because I think it just comes so natural to you. Um, but yeah, no, I'm sure like maybe like the pressure of not, you know, when you have a client or something, you know, like they're looking to you to like provide them, like, whereas if it's just like a regular, not a regular, but you know, like someone who's not a client, it's not as like as high pressure. But yeah, no, I think I mean, one, I'll just say from doing this podcast, I found someone to do my facials, and now I get regular facials because we made those connections and like that networking. But yeah, it's been a really good ride. It's been over a year that we've been doing this, hustling, and you know, maybe we'll still make appearances on social media or
Yes.
however.
And I think like if we like, it's hard doing this and having to like promote on social media, editing videos, and like I give kudos, mad kudos to people who are that dedicated on top of like their full-time job and being able to do some of this stuff, because it's a lot and it can be really exhausting. And I also think that's partially a reason that we're kind of taking a break and stepping back, is we're busy and we're
Yeah.
tired and we have things that we need to do, and we just can't dedicate the time that we want to into promoting on social media and, you know, getting more followers, creating new content, all of this stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think I've said this a million times before, but I am not technically inclined. technologically inclined.
Technologically.
Technical, 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 tech, tech.
Just give it up.
I don't have that. So, but yeah, I agree with Shamina that like it is a lot because we're trying to work our regular, Monday through Friday jobs, record, edit, promote, release, all of that. And not that it's been like a burden, but we just think that maybe taking a little bit of a break and not being so intense, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word. It's not the word I want to use, but
demanding of our time, maybe.
Yeah. But it will be, bittersweet. But our goal, so as Shamina had stated, we're gonna release episodes every other week for our final. And it's not going to be as long, but we're hoping to bring back a few guests and kind of like really give you guys a great last season and maybe bring back some prior guests.
You just said that?
Oh, I said bring back. I thought I said have guests and bring back guests.
I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't listening right, but we're going to try and make it the best season that we can for everyone. And I think for ourselves too, and like going out with a bang.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely is bittersweet because I mean, we've been doing this consistently for a whole year. And I think it's definitely helped me learn more like about you and your emotions and your emotional process. Yeah, that's what I want to say. So I think that's been really cool to see, if just like better understanding you in that way, and then also just kind of like how it fits into our friendship. But I think it'll also be nice when we get together that we're not like, we have to take a picture for social media, or if we have all of our friends together, like, can we record an episode with all of you guys because we're here. So I think it'll take a little more pressure off of like social engagements when we're all together.
Yeah, and I think the same for you. Like I think I knew these things about you, but I think getting together and like seeing it's like, okay, like, sometimes you just gotta be a little bit more patient with Shamina. But I think it also taught me a lot about myself, because I think when we first started this podcast, I remember I would say like, oh, I'm such an emotional person. And like, yes, I think I'm an emotional person, but I think I was so emotional then because of everything that I had been through. And so now like I am the person, I'll express how I'm feeling. Like if I feel some type of way, I'm not that person that's going to hold it in and like I'm going to let you know I need to talk my feelings out. But I don't think that I would call that emotional, but I think I thought that I was because of who I was with and the situation that I was in, that I was like, oh, I'm just so emotional. I just cry every day. And then I'm like, oh, actually I don't cry every day. I was just like really unhappy. So I think that was, but I still think that I would classify myself as an emotional person.
Mm-hmm. But I think you had to hold it in because your ex was just not emotionally mature enough to like hold space for your feelings. And so it was like the breakup. And then this podcast was, I can talk about this all the time. Like, let's let it out. We got to do this. And so it was like the floodgates were open. No stopping Karlie from feeling her feelings.
And I kind of laugh because I will never forget this moment when we and you were recording together. And I can't remember what the episode was, but it was like one of the first ones. And we're talking and I just start bawling. And Shamina's just looking at me and I'm like, girl, I had to like grab my shirt and cry in my shirt because I couldn't breathe. I was crying so hard. And she's just looking. And I remember I had to be like, I need you to take over. I cannot get words out right now. Like, I don't know if you can't tell, but I can't talk.
It was the therapist in me, like, oh, just pause, let them cry. It's all right. She'll compose herself, and then we'll keep going.
I just remember you just looking at me and I'm thinking, what are you doing? I'm like hyperventilating over here, like
I'm just holding space. That's all.
she was just chilling, watching me, and I'm like, can you do something? I'm very uncomfortable.
Oh, that's so funny.
I will not forget that moment because I was just like, what the hell is happening?
You got to see the therapist side a little more.
Definitely. Oh, God.
I think we dedicate this last season to growth and moving forward because that's how we're going to end this season, and I think that's what it represents to both of us is the amount of growth that has happened in the past year and what we plan to do with it moving forward. It's not holding on to the past or talking about a breakup or what have you, but how do we take these versions of ourselves now, and what are we going to do with them in the future?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, I have a question. I'm curious. Do you have like a moment or a specific like episode that was when you started to be like, okay, I think we are coming to an end?
Well, I think, and we sort of like talked about it, but I think it was like this past season because I think it was just like a mutual, like both of our fires about this were like burning out. And it wasn't like, all right, this is what we're talking about today. Like I had this. It was kind of like, okay, so like what do you have? Or like what do you have? Or well, maybe we could talk about this. And I think just like our passion wasn't there anymore. So I was feeling it for a while, and I was just starting to get tired. So I think I could tell that I was getting burnt out. And because I was also starting a new podcast for my job as well. So I was like, oh my God, I have two of these things I'm doing. Okay, great. So because I think I felt this way like end of April or early May. And I remember when we were together for your birthday, I didn't want to bring it up because I was like, it's your birthday. I don't want to ruin it. If this is not how she's feeling, I'm not going to talk about it. So I was like, nope, we're just gonna avoid. And then I would like talk to my partner. I was like, I need to talk to Karlie. I need to talk to Karlie. I was like, I need to tell her how I'm feeling, but I don't want to. She's gonna get mad at me. She's not gonna be my friend anymore. Like this is just gonna be horrible, terrible. And then the anxiety and the fear and the set in. So
And then what happened?
and then it was so fine. And Karlie's like, yeah, I feel the same way. And I was like, oh, great. Good to know.
And it's funny because for me, I can't remember the specific episode, but I think I knew for me when we were again we were trying to figure out what to talk about, and I think it was the one where we mixed two topics in one. And I had said in the episode, like, I'm now at this point to where I don't feel the need to have to talk about my past relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of seems irrelevant to bring it up anymore because it just isn't like holding, like, like it's not taking over me like it had. And when I needed to talk about it, now I'm like, I don't see the need. I mean, obviously, I if it were to help someone, then I would, talk about how it could be, similar or whatever. But I think that was it for me. But I think I was just rolling with it because you didn't say anything, and I was, it was kind of like
Yeah. And now that you say that, I remember thinking like that specific episode, like, I wonder what we're gonna keep doing then.
yeah.
Like if this and I think we've significantly drifted away from like the focuses like of the breakup because we've branched out so much more. But it was like in my head of like what are we gonna be doing here then? And how is this gonna work kind of thing. So
Yeah, like what now? So
Yeah.
I think I still hope that people, maybe if they have friends or something that are going through something and they can recommend a podcast episode, because obviously we're not going to be putting down any of our any of our episodes, like we're going to leave them up. So I still hope that these episodes help people going through certain things. And I think maybe if some at some point someone thinks of a topic that they would like discussed, like please still message or DM, or I guess DM and message is the same. Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Excuse
Comment.
me.
You know, I would like that interaction even after the fact, but I really still hope that our episodes have an impact. Like they continue to, because I know that I still recently got a message from someone that we went to high school with saying how they just recently listened to like our first episode and how like it really helped them. And so that was really nice, like after all of this time. But I hope that it still helps, like it has a lasting impact.
Yeah, I think it will. And that, as you were talking, also reminded me, so we're going to be releasing episodes this last season every other week. But if it's just Karlie and I and we don't have a guest, we will not be releasing a YouTube video. It is only going to be audio that you will hear us. But if we have a guest, then we'll do the video so that way you can see them. Oops, I just crushed a box. So that way you can see them and us, just as an aside.
We're going to take ourselves off camera, in the sense of like, it's like a more natural feeling. Is that what you call it?
Yes. I think for me it's hard because I sit in front of a camera and I'm looked at all day doing telehealth, and so sometimes when we record it feels like I'm doing work again. And I think that's been contributing a little more to like the burnout feeling. So I'm interested to see if the camera's off and I'm feeling more relaxed, if it'll change some things for me.
Yeah, and I think it could potentially help with the flow, because I will say, I mean, I've gotten used to it now, but with Zoom, if you were to try to talk while I'm talking, you can't, it only can acknowledge one voice at a time. And for me, like I'm like a type of conversationalist where like I build off of other people, but I have to like make sure, like, are they completely done talking? Because if not, this Zoom is going to be messed up. And then I feel like sometimes it gets me off of like, I'm like, oh, I forgot, or it's just not the same like build up.
Yeah, definitely. And I just wait till people stop talking. So
Well, yeah, for you it doesn't, but like for you it's no big deal. You got this. You're trained on this. But for me, I'm like, yeah, to go off of that, but I'm like, I can't do that on Zoom, because then they either won't hear me or they won't hear you, and then it'll be awkward silence, but our lips are moving.
Yeah, the struggle is real.
The struggle for a talker on Zoom is real.
Yes. So that is our goal, our update. We definitely want to kind of stay active-ish on social media. We may even do like a 6-month check-in, like where are they now type of thing, and keep you guys posted if you are interested in that type of stuff, because we'll be around.
I like that. But so we wanted to just kind of let you guys know what next season's going to look like, the fact that it's going to be our last season. We do really, really appreciate all of the support, though, that we have received throughout these seasons that we have done. Honestly, like getting the random messages, however we get them, it makes my day, because it just like, I'm just like, that's really awesome. Like someone listened and it helped them and they liked it, and, they're letting us know. So I really do like that.
Yeah, definitely. It reinforces, I think, our purpose behind starting the podcast.
Because I think for me from the start, it's, especially in today's world with everything happening, but it just shows how important mental health is and how crucial it is that we address mental health. And it's not something to be ashamed of, although I feel like that's still like an issue with mental health today, is people don't want to talk about it, and there's that stigma. So I just hope that like we can be more open with like, hey, this is really hard for me and I don't know how to deal with it. And know that that's all right and it's okay to say that. Um, and there will probably be someone who feels the same way as you, and then maybe you guys can navigate it together, or at least just knowing someone else feels similar to you makes the situation a little bit easier to bear, whatever it is that you're going through.
Yeah. And I think we're slowly getting there.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely. And the more opportunities we have to have these types of conversations and normalizing and validating, I think will be helpful.
And I would like to say, from the messages that we've received, um, a lot of them are, it's really nice knowing someone else feels the way I feel. And the reason why I feel like that's a huge deal is because that's exactly how I felt too. Like, you know it, but no one talks about it, you know? Like, I knew people had been through what I was going through, but no one really talks about how hard it is. But I think like me being able to talk about it and then talking to other people and then being like, yeah, like that's what I went through. I was like, oh wow, like that honestly I feel like really helped me work on getting past it, because it helped me be okay with my feelings instead of trying to push them away. So just like the validation in general, I think is the what I want of like, oh, I'm sure a lot of, and not like in a condescending way of like, oh, people have been through that, but like someone else is probably going through that, and so maybe they can help you, or just knowing that someone else is kind of feeling the way that you feel, it kind of soothes. At least it did for me.
I think for me too, because I don't, being a therapist, my self-disclosure is pretty limited on, what I communicate or tell to my clients. And so I think this has also been helpful for me because I've been through some shit in my life, and um, most people don't know. And so I think it's been nice to have a platform that like I can share pieces of my story that I feel comfortable with, and kind of pushing my own comfort level, and just opening up about some things that like I've experienced or I've learned or what have you, and allowing other people to hear that, because I think again, just so much of us have gone through similar experiences, but we don't know that. Or we hear about these things and it's like, wow, it's a point of connection for people, and I think it brings us together. And so just being able to have the opportunity to share more of my stories on like a public platform has been really nice, even though Karlie's wanted me to share more than I have. But I'm proud of I'm proud of what I've been able to communicate.
Well, that's what's important. But I just think the biggest thing is like knowing you're not alone. You're
Yeah.
not the only one, you know? But we all just, share what we're comfortable sharing, because oversharing, if you're not comfortable with that, is obviously not going to be helpful for you. So, um, yeah, just know that someone else out there has probably experienced something similar. And for me, I don't know if this is like, but I still think like sometimes there's one specific day, and I think you probably know, but where I was just so sad. And I remember calling you and being like, Shamina, I just don't want to feel like this. Like I don't know how to handle like this. And it's crazy to see how it's only been a year and some months. And it's like it's kind of funny in the sense of ironic of like, oh, it really isn't gonna be forever, that you feel that way. But in the moment, it sure as hell feels that way. And like, it is a slow process. You have to be patient with yourself, but also you have to trust the process and know, like, as long as you are doing what you can to work to try to, get better in a sense, you'll get there.
Well, I think it's important to remember that how we feel is time sensitive. It's, rare that we will feel that way for the rest of our lives. And, I've worked with some clients who they they never believed that they would even get to like a life stage because of, the mental state that they were in, or having like suicidal thoughts or what have you, and being able to follow them along on that journey and reflecting like, I never thought that I would get here, or I would achieve this kind of goal. It's such an empowering feeling that you can learn. You can learn how to cope with your emotions. You can learn how to feel in control of them. You can learn that you're not alone, and that things can get better. Life still like throws its punches, and it's hard a lot of the time, especially like nowadays things are just crazy, but things can get better, and that it is very time sensitive. But in the moment we feel like, the sky is falling and we have no other choice but to sit there and dwell in it.
And I think like how you mentioned the fact that it's time sensitive, like with our feelings and everything, it's important that we remember even happiness is time sensitive, but I think we're always expecting that we should be happy because that's what's only ever portrayed to us is like happiness, happy people, joyful, excitement. But just like sadness and fear, happiness is time sensitive too. So like Shamina said, like life is hard. You're going to get thrown things. So it's like when you do finally get to a spot where you're like, wow, I can't believe I got here, not like not have it like in the back of your head or something, but know like if you were able to get through that when something else, because something will happen, you were able to manage to get through that, you're going to get through it again. It's just a matter of time and putting that work in for yourself. So yeah, all emotions are like time sensitive, even happiness, even the good ones, even the ones that life and society tells us that's what we're supposed to feel all the time. That's not real. No one feels happy 100% of the time. You
Yeah.
don't. I don't believe you.
You're lying.
You're lying. It's not true.
I use the example a lot of, I want you to think about like the happiest moment of your life, and just kind of sit with it for a second. Everybody's like, yeah, okay. And then I want you to think how long until you felt a different emotion, whether it was like annoyed or frustrated or sad or disappointed. And most people are like, oh yeah, pretty quickly. But overall, that day meant something and it was a joyful moment. But our emotions fluctuate so quickly, and we may have a higher percentage of like, oh, I'm feeling this today or that today, but we feel all kinds of things all the time throughout the day.
Mm-hmm. And I just think that we hyper focus on sadness and fear and stuff because we don't know how to navigate them. Whereas
100%.
happy,
My
what?
bad.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, whereas happiness, we're kind of shown how to navigate that because that's like the standard emotion that we're told we're supposed to feel. So I feel like for the most part, we know how to navigate it. But if you think about it, someone who maybe has only felt like sadness or unsure and then they feel happiness, they're probably like, what the heck? How do I navigate this emotion? So I think that's just why sometimes those emotions feel so intense and we don't know what to do with them, is because we don't allow ourselves to feel them and navigate them, because it's like the moment we feel them, it's like, how do we turn this off? I don't like this. How do I turn it off? And so we don't even give our bodies a moment to be like, okay, I'm sad, but I'm sad because of this. And if I let my body feel it, I'll feel a little bit better.
Well, we're taught that the negative ones are bad because, even from a young age, we get like shamed or blamed of like, why are you crying? Why are you upset? Brush yourself off, and whatever the cliche phrases are that people say. And I think it's really important to remember how you talk to yourself, because a lot of it is, this dialogue that has been fed to you. But would you talk to a little kid like that? Probably not. My niece, I just saw my niece recently, and she's throwing fits, and she's at that stage where she when she starts like whining or she's tired, she doesn't communicate how she's feeling, and she just like cries and she's whiny, and she's very annoying because she can't communicate. And my brother and sister-in-law are working on that, but they validate how she's feeling. And my sister-in-law is like, I'm sorry that you're feeling frustrated right now. I need you to talk to me and tell me what to do. Or, we'll say something. I'm like, it's okay. You can be sad or you can be mad. Not, why are you crying? You need to stop that. Because that teaches us at such a young age that we're not allowed to feel that way. It's not good to feel that way, which is why we grow up and deal with these things as adults and have to go to therapy.
It's funny because that's what I do, like with my nephew too. Like if he's crying, I'm like, tell me what's wrong. How can we? But also, I think when like he is happy or something, like when you were saying like how do we talk to ourselves, I'll be like, you're so silly, And so I think if we spoke to ourselves as kindly as we speak to others, things would be a lot
change the
better.
world.
Yeah, really, because we'd be giving us all this power. So let's go out and just be silly.
Yes. Be silly and normalize.
That's hard.
Yes. Are you guys feeling full? And if you're feeling sad or disappointed that this will be our last season, that's okay. We feel those feelings too. It's very bittersweet, I think, for the both of us.
Correcto mundo.
What were you going to say? Did I cut you off?
No, I was quoting a Cardi B song, and then I was like, maybe I
Good
shouldn't.
call. So we will return on Tuesday, June 28th, with the beginning of our final season of Emotionful. We're super, super stoked that we have been on this journey for this long, and we're really excited to bring you guys this last season. So we hope that you enjoy it.
Yes, and shout out to our day ones. I mean, shout out to all of our viewers, listeners, followers, but those day ones, thank y'all. Thank you.
Yes.
So
we will see you all. Oh, what?
Oh, I was just saying, and the support.
Yes. We'll see you all in 2 weeks.
See ya.
Bye.